Hello, everyone. Paul, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
There you are.
It works.
Right. Well, good evening, everyone. Just going to give a minute or two for people to jump on. When you jump on, just comment, just so we know you're there. Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Sunday Night Live on Facebook, all social media platforms with the one and only Paul Lowe. How you doing, Paul?
Yeah,
well, good evening, everyone.
That's very kind of you.
Welcome to our Sunday Night Live on Facebook, all social media platforms with the one and only Paul Lowe. How you doing, Paul? Hey, Paul, are you listening to me on there?
Hey?
Welcome to our Sunday Night. Are you listening to me?
No.
All social media platforms with all I can hear is my voice reverbing.
No, I'm just looking at you.
Can you hear that?
No, I can hear you.
I can hear.
Technology at its best.
So there's a big announcement happening tonight.
Are we the warm-up act?
And we're the warm-up act. That's right, Paul. Boris actually called us and said, "We want you two to be the warm-up act."
I don't know what to say. You stunned me.
So what we're going to do tonight, guys, is we're going to get on with it because we're going to finish at 10 to 5 to 7 to give you plenty of time to get a cup of tea for the big announcement from Boris. So let me introduce Paul. How you doing, Paul?
Yeah, all right. Very well, thank you. Good to see you.
Good to see you. I like glasses.
Thank you.
That's you.
I've got my lockdown haircut and signing me ages with glasses.
Oh, funny you say about lockdown haircuts. My wife had a go at cutting mine about 2 hours ago. Oh,
Joe, you've done well.
You think?
Yeah, this is my standard haircut because I'm losing it anyway, but you wouldn't have noticed.
And actually, I said, "Can you do me a Paul Lowe?"
Oh, gosh.
And she came out with this.
Oh, you've done very well.
Who actually does your hair normally, Paul?
That is a big question. I have to pay a lot. No, Steph does it.
You don't go to a local.
Well, when we first moved to Manchester, gosh, this is going out live to who knows, but when we first moved to Manchester, the guy charged me 25 quid and asked me if I wanted a Rooney. He said, for 10 grand, I can get you all your roots put in. And that was it. I went and bought some clippers and we do it myself.
Oh, that's great, mate.
Yeah.
In Hull, you can get a little trim for like 6-7 quid.
Gosh. Yeah. A Rooney, 10 grand.
A Rooney, mate. So you're not a Manchester fan, are you?
No, I'm not a Leicester fan. I know it's a shocker to say it a bit. I've got one neighbours United, one neighbours City, and I'm kind of stuck in the middle. But I was born in Leicester and used to go down very regularly, and it's a lifelong thing. I've not just jumped on the glory train of the last few years.
Well, most Man United fans have jumped on the glory train.
I can't. I need to be a neutral. There'll be people in Manchester watching this.
So tell me, how were your emotions when Leicester won the Premiership?
Oh gosh, like nothing you've ever known. We were not expecting that year. Unbelievable. I went for the parade. It was phenomenal.
Did you?
Yeah. Think of all those years where we got relegated, went down to Division 2 for a while to then win it. Unbelievable. We probably can't better that, even if we get Champions League this year.
So imagine if when that happened was happening this season and then it got cancelled.
Oh gosh.
I mean, I'm a Liverpool fan. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad. Hold on.
Who's,
Sorry, someone is repeatedly phoning me.
is it your mum?
No, it's not. It's someone from my daughter. There we go. Sorted.
So for those of you, I mean, most people know who you are, Paul. But for those of you who don't, why don't you just tell us a bit about yourself? Who is Paul Lowe?
Yeah. So as you say, I'm a Leicester fan. I'm married to Steph. We've been married this year 15 years. Got 2 daughters, a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old. Also got 2 guinea pigs. That is definitely making things interesting during the lockdown.
How are they finding it?
Oh my goodness me! Yeah, that's another story in itself. My daughter's converted. They've got like a little playhouse in the garden. They've converted that into a doctor's surgery. And last night they were having a discussion about one of the guinea pigs has got the coronavirus. Apparently, so fascinating times. But no, we love barbecues, chimneys. Moved to Manchester in 2016 to plant a vineyard here, and we love it. Yeah.
Barbecues. You mentioned barbecues. Obviously, in this lockdown, it's been a great opportunity to get the barbecue out. I mean, I hear you get your barbecue out in the winter.
Pretty serious. I'm an all year rounder. Yeah, the weather counts for nothing. Barbecue whenever you can. It's my happy place.
Yeah, but you're a hard lad, are you, Paul?
Northerner at heart.
No, absolutely, mate.
Yeah.
So tell me, you're doing your dream barbecue. What meat do you put on? I mean, unless you're doing vegetable skewers. I mean,
no, most meats. You've got to have a range of meats, I'd say. So marinated chicken, sausages. I'd love if you're doing a really good one, a good nice cut of steak, slowly cooked.
Right, tell us start to finish, Paul. Because if they get nothing else out of us talking tonight, I hope they can make a brilliant steak this week.
That's it. This is the warm up to Boris. I'd say steak from the butcher. Bring it up to room temperature, nice bit of oil, get the seasoning on it and all of that, and then cook it very slowly. And don't overcook it. Let it then cook itself, take it off the heat and let it rest for a while before you eat it. With a few potato wedges, bit of peppercorn sauce and asparagus. Living the dream. I've gone too far. I need to go and do this.
Absolutely, mate.
Yeah.
So what cut of steak do you like? Sirloin, ribeye, fillet?
Ribeye and sirloin normally.
Yeah, I love ribeye.
It's not the cheapest, but it is nice.
But ribeye, because it's got the fat running through it, the marble effect.
Yeah.
You actually have to cook that medium to make sure that's cooked through.
Yeah.
Whereas normally I'd have medium rare for like a fillet or sirloin.
Yeah, medium rare.
So I've been trying to perfect the perfect steak in this season on my barbecue. And I discovered this. Open up the lid, get the steak on, close the lid, high heat, really sear it. And then just as we're coming to the end, just baste it with a garlic butter.
Oh.
And you brush it. The garlic butter is melted butter, minced garlic, parsley, and lemon juice.
Oh, man alive.
Salt and pepper, baste the steak, and then put the lid back on, get it on the plate, let it rest at least 5 minutes. And the garlic flavour running through the steak is off the charts.
When lockdown's done, I'm coming round.
You're very welcome. Next year, see you next year, mate. So what does lockdown life look like for the Lowe family?
Yeah, it's been interesting. My mum very quickly bought our kids a trampoline. They just needed another energy outlet. As I said, the guinea pigs are definitely getting slightly more attention than normal. The kids normally get on so well when they're not winding each other up. But there's elements where there's been challenges. Like I've been cycling to the school gate with our eldest daughter just because she wants to see if the school's still there and one day will she see her friends again. But I mean, yeah, we've been busy. I'd say I know a number of people are painting the fence and washing the car, but we've been focused really on the opportunities in the city as a church. There's huge challenges, but also huge opportunities in this season. And you listen to some of the needs in the city and realize some of them. There's people going without food, people who had incredibly challenging lifestyles and situations previously that is only increased, and some of those in the church as well. So I think lockdown has been quite hard. I was really quite ill at the beginning of the year. I had pneumonia, and so I feel like this year has been kind of in lockdown. I think I've only really made 3 or 4 Sundays this year with the church in person. But that said, we've currently, I would say, got reach into the lives of our street and our surrounding neighbourhood personally on a level like never before. And it's amazing. You've got to seize those moments and step into those windows, really. But yeah, challenges, but on the whole, we're blessed people. You know, we've got a house, we've got heating, we've got a barbecue. There's people in obviously way more challenging situations than us, but we've sought to make the best of it, sought to stay as close to Jesus as we can and walk it out alongside those that were, it's bizarre FaceTiming neighbours, but what a moment to step into their lives. And I never thought providing a neighbour a toilet roll would be one of the biggest blessings I could give them in the earlier days.
Yeah.
It's just bizarre, some of it, isn't it?
I think one of the greatest gifts it gives to us is a sense of perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, when we come out of this lockdown, the reality is for millions and millions of people all around the world, they're still in some form of lockdown.
Yeah.
Through poverty and various other injustices. So I think it gives us right now a heightened sense of empathy and compassion, which the church really needs to lean into.
Yeah.
That I think if we're looking for a redemptive gift from this season, it'd be that it's maybe changed our outlook on life. And so,
and given us an understanding of authority, I would say that the church has a voice and the church has a part to play in the restoration of cities and towns, and that we can actively respond in these moments.
Yeah. So you guys were at Trent Vineyard, the mothership.
Yeah.
And 3 years ago, you planted Manchester. Tell us about that story, Paul, for you and Steph, and how did you get called into church planting and that journey?
So I guess everything is faith, isn't it? We're people of faith, and so I would say we weren't looking for it. We didn't see it coming, but we always longed to be obedient to whatever the Lord might be saying. We actually moved to Trent from a vineyard down south, and so felt like that had already been our move, that had already been our huge faith step to do that. And we loved Trent. We loved our time there. We loved serving John and Debbie. We loved the wonderful church staff team and the wider family. It gave us a safe place and a place to be stretched and a place to be championed. But there was a particular year where we had over 70 prophetic words in a year. And I know some people have done these kind of things on 2 or 3. You know, we weren't trying to be disobedient, but we were just desperately trying to seek the Lord's will for our lives and see what he was saying. And some of that started to get a bit much. When you've had that many words, you're like, Lord, not what are you saying, but we want to be obedient to exactly what you are saying, and we want to do that.
Yeah.
We went away to Spain on holiday just with our daughter to try and get away a bit from it all, get some headspace. And we were sat on the plane, and before we'd even taken off, the guy at the side of me leant over to Steph and I, and he said, "Are you and your wife thinking of starting a church in the north of England?" And you have those moments where you're like, what? And anyway, I grilled him for pretty much the rest of the flight. Like, do you know Jesus? Are you prone to prophetic words? He'd only ever been to church for weddings and funerals. He just thought it was the obvious thing to say. And when you've got a guy who's not following Jesus, who's thinking that is the obvious thing to say, I think for us it was kind of game over, if I'm honest. And we knew it was the Lord and he was speaking, and the rest was really just obedience to what he was saying. I guess obedience doesn't mean it's going to be cost free. You can say yes in a moment, but you keep having to say yes at every juncture in that journey, and I guess it's a daily and it's a lifetime saying yes. We had some moments even in the moving towards Manchester, just of challenges and pain. You know, we announced it to the leaders at Trent, and the very next day, Steph started to lose our second child. She started to have a miscarriage, and it was just such a painful moment, just a real reality check of, you know, Lord, are you still in this? What do we still do? And obviously we still planted, but I guess sometimes there can be pain and there can be challenge in the saying yes. But we stepped out, and I guess faith is partly the confidence of what we hope for and the reassurance about what we don't see, and you just keep having to move forward into that next place of that, really. So yeah.
I've been really privileged to kind of witness your journey. I came and spoke at when you were in that pub. What was the pub called?
Yeah, the Rampant Lion.
The Rampant Lion.
Yeah,
it's still my favourite venue I've ever spoken in.
Yeah, they got two lions on the doorway.
Oh.
It's like like a prophetic sign in a sense.
Yeah, and then at your recent venue, most recent venue, which is in a school, lovely school.
Yeah.
Speaking to some leaders, and just and it's wonderful, isn't it, to see the why we do church planting.
Yeah.
And, you know, going through that real step of faith and uprooting, and people joining you, and then, you know, going from small groups, and you're in a pub, and then you're in this school, and just see the journey and the many people being impacted. Just shows why church planting as the primary forms of evangelism is so central to us as a movement. And one of the roles you have is on the national church planting team, isn't it, Paul?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So just quickly on that, it's one of the things we're stirring in terms of creating home in Hull and beyond, is church planting and multi-site and things like that. How would you encourage us in that?
I'd say now more than ever, this is a major moment for multiplication. We've got an opportunity almost to live out the Acts 2 church, and I think for all of the challenges that we see faced nationally and internationally among churches, I feel remarkably privileged to be poised and ready to move, ready to respond to what the Lord is doing. We're quite light in structure, we're light in finances, and we're able to reposition ourselves. We quite easily shook off some of our Sunday venue. We were a very city focused church anyway, and we're able just to reach into the community. But I think the thing I would say is it's changed Steph and I, and it's changed our kids. I would say I've always longed to live out our faith. We've always longed to love Jesus and love people and share that with anybody and everybody possible. But more than ever, you place yourself in that place of risk and that place of faith. You have to go for it, and you have to go for it with everything within you. And so even during this crisis now, the way we're trying to reach into the lives of our neighbours, I'd hope we would have done that anyway. But now the church planting is a moment of stepping into that. I don't want to say more aggressively, that's probably the wrong word, but with greater passion and desire and longing and desperation to see the kingdom break in. And it's been a privilege to do that. I think of some of the people we've met now and know now that we would have never known, and we would have never interacted, and we may have never seen come to faith or activate in their faith if we hadn't have taken that risk and stepped into that place of faith. It's an honor, and it's a privilege to therefore have a church family around us that has come from that place of risk, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. So if someone or a group of people or couple in our church, church planting is kind of stirring in them, what's kind of like top 3 things for them to do?
I'd say start now, because I don't think you need to wait until you don't need to move to a new place to live out your faith passionately. Like grow in the soil that you're currently in, and let that come to fruition. So fall more in love with Jesus, serve the local church, give everything you've got to the cause of Christ, and journey with the leader in front of you, journey with your church leaders, journey with you guys. You know, I think you've got to fully step into that and discern if that might be what the Lord is stirring, then ask him to speak, let him speak.
Yeah.
The main things I'd encourage
Yeah,
them.
that's awesome. So in the 3 years you planted in Manchester, of course, we've got this current crisis.
Yeah,
But of course, you also had the other crisis, which were the Manchester bombings.
yeah.
So you've had it full on as a church plant in these first
Yeah.
3 formative years. Can you tell us some of the things that you did to respond to that crisis with the Manchester bombings, and then kind of feed that into this current crisis?
Yeah, so we started Sundays in September of 2016, and then obviously the bomb happened in the May of 2017. And it kind of was a really challenging time for the city. But the city started to use the strap line that we'd always used, Love Manchester. We'd already had the website lovemanchester.org that had always been our heartbeat, and so it was a kind of a fascinating interweaving of the two. But in the immediate, we wanted to be a people that respond, and we realised there was a window of opportunity and people's hearts were open, and so we managed to acquire a camper van, and we used it just to move people and resources into the city and create a bit of a station to have conversations with people and try and bless them and share our faith. And we had remarkable opportunities in those moments to do that. And on the back of that, we ended up getting our own camper van and have just kind of kept doing it. And the opportunity to do that has kept growing. But I think we really found in that time, it was fascinating. You get windows of opportunity, and those windows change quite quickly. You know, there was like a sense of grief and pain and openness that then changed into like anger and fear and frustration. And it was almost, how can we respond to each window of opportunity? And I'd say we're almost finding a very similar thing now. It's different, but there's similar windows. And it's been amazing. I mean, we've used the van and we've used it regularly, but to be able to do that now in this time has been remarkable. We've almost used it as a Meals on Wheels. We've been able to go to people and collect stuff, and then go to homes that need it and deliver stuff. And we've partnered with the council in doing that. There aren't that many organisations that are set up to do both ends of that, whereas partly through having the van, through what happened with the bomb, we've just been ready and poised and able to do it. It's been amazing.
Yeah, I mean, your van is just incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
You just pack that full of food and are able to go and.
Yeah, I think last week the team, I think they fed over 100 people, which is amazing, really. You would have never foreseen the need to be doing that, but you literally have the ability to be street pastors. The area that we meet in has some of the highest levels of child poverty in the country, let alone the city.
Yeah.
And so there was desperate need before this crisis, but now it's almost more emphasised than ever. And so we've been able to travel around people in the church, but collect food from them, but they're also inviting their streets and almost neighborhoods to start gathering stuff as well, and then work with other providers and donors and distribute it, take it from where people have got it to where people haven't got it.
Yeah. So you want to tell the viewers about the building, Paul, that's going to be used for Compassion.
So it was February 2019, we shared with the church that the Lord had just laid a seed in our hearts for a remarkable building that was actually opened during the cholera outbreak in the 1800s. And it's been a derelict centre for many years. When the financial crash happened, they closed it, and it's just sat empty, and it needs a fair bit of work, but it's a very key location in the city, and we've been working with the local council to see if they might be able to let us have it as an asset transfer, and that's kind of in motion. And we've just been raising the money basically to be able to do it up so that we could use it, particularly to try and bring some focus on child poverty and to try and alleviate and reverse the damaging impact of that. And so we've gone at that with everything within us. But a guy a number of years ago at the Vineyard National Leaders Conference had a word for Steph and I, And he said, I see you moving into a derelict building virtually opposite to where your Sunday venue is, in a predominantly Pakistani Muslim community. And that
Wow.
is exactly where it is. And the
Wow.
Lord spoke quite clearly in a number of ways about doing it. I've got to say, in the human, you wouldn't do it. It's a crazy thing to be taken on. It's a derelict building. But the potential to rewrite the story of hope and rewrite the story of a whole community, and to really try and do something about the challenge of child poverty is clearly the Lord's doing, and we're just seeking to be obedient with it and to step into it.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a movement and as local churches, if you were to cut, the vineyard down the centre, we would lead compassion.
Yeah.
We've really focused on that in terms of a church, and especially in this season, and seen real opportunity, real breakthrough. Yeah, I mean, just talk to us a bit about some of the opportunities you see as we kind of emerge out of this period, in terms of the opportunities for compassion and for the church to step out in faith.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if this is one of the greatest moments for the church, to be honest, that we get to wash the feet of the city, and the opportunity of the church is to step into the place of compassion, which ultimately is what we're about, isn't it? We, like you say, it's the worship and compassion are the two major anchors of who we are as a movement, and we'd seek to do that with everything within us, to prefer others, to defer to others, to spend ourselves on others, to step into people's practical needs, demonstrate the kingdom, and then have the opportunities to proclaim the kingdom. And I think it's an amazing moment to do that.
Yeah.
I found that the openness among our neighbours, we've kind of tried to seize it and almost create opportunities. We've just done, particularly around this building, we did this thing we called the £1 challenge, where we're trying to ask 100,000 people if they would give us £1. Now, there's two sides to it. One is actually the money would be really helpful for what we're trying to do with this building, and we need to do something more urgently than previous we'd planned. But actually, the moment to invite people into your story, and to share your story, and to therefore share his story, and to invite people to understand the heart of God for the city beyond just themselves and beyond their locality, is a remarkable moment.
Yeah, it kind of feels like what the Spirit of God's doing is displacing our comfort.
Yeah.
And those things that we put our hope in, those things that we placed our comfort in, those comfort zones as a church. It's really easy, isn't it, to look at us and think, we're doing a good job, we're doing all right. But I think we really want to see God move in power and what's on our hearts, like in revival power, and see massive change in a city and beyond. It's going to take the church to get out of the comfort zone, isn't it?
Yeah, and I guess crisis is a moment for that. There's almost like you get a laser guided focus, don't you? Where
for sure
everybody everywhere has been able to have whatever they want whenever they want it. Even now, I'd say you can buy virtually whatever you need online. I discovered even this last week, I could buy barbecue gas and I could get it delivered cheaper than I used to go and buy it for. But what you can't buy is relationship and community and family and vulnerability that ultimately only comes from the people of God in the presence of God. And we have, I think, the realization for us to understand that, and the authority we have with that to then pass that on to others, and the moment of not just gathering but actually genuinely connecting with each other, and then connecting with people is a crisis is an accelerator, isn't it? It really refines and speeds up your urgency and your focus for what the Lord might do.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I was going to read this quote from a C.S. Lewis book.
Oh yeah.
I've dug in C.S. Lewis a number of times, but I felt in this season, because of when it was written, a lot of his stuff.
Yeah.
In a crisis, that his perspective would be helpful, and he said this. It was such a brilliant perspective. He says the war, who's writing this post-war, the war creates no absolutely new situation. It simply aggravates the permanent human situation so that we can no longer ignore it.
Wow.
And so it's this idea, when this pandemic happened, it wasn't like we were all doing great.
Yeah.
And now a crisis has happened. We're not doing great.
Yeah.
I think the true perspective is that if we look at the human condition, if we look at suffering and justice, if you look at our nation in terms of a real minority of people who are followers of Christ,
yeah,
the situation was dire, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But a crisis and a pandemic that comes almost, things come closer to home, changes our perspective and our vision, doesn't it? And things weren't okay, they're still not okay, but actually, because it's come to our door, actually this is causing me to do something about it.
Yeah. Do you find as well, I found it really interesting that, in the first couple of weeks of lockdown, there was a rising within us. There was like this heartfelt cry of desperation and yearning for a move of God. And then after a couple of weeks, the crisis you're in becomes your new normal, and you settle and the parameters change slightly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What I'm longing for is, I just don't want to stop with that yearning for the kingdom to break in, that sense of urgency and desperation and utter just longing. Like I am, the world is not in our control, but it is in his control, and we long for him to move, and we long for him to break in. The challenge being that we kind of settle after a while for the new normal, don't we?
I liken it to kind of being in prison. Never been in prison.
Yeah.
But I can imagine as a survival strategy to deal with the emotional pressure and the mental pressure and the regret and all these different things and hopes that have been quashed, and knowing that there's all your relationships are outside the four walls of this prison where you can't go, is that you start to cope by looking for outlets in your day.
Yeah.
So it could be like, a bit of work, or half an hour on the pool table, or half an hour on the phone with someone, or that meal time. And so and all that is quite, I think there's something redemptive in that in terms of simplicity. Yeah. So absolutely, this is helping us to shift our focus in terms of appreciation.
Yeah.
I know we joke about barbecues, but the reality is, in this context, a barbecue's never felt or tasted so good.
Yeah.
I've never appreciated a barbecue more now than I've done before.
Yeah.
So absolutely, like gratitude, appreciation, simplicity, all great gifts to us in this moment. But I love what you said, in that we've got to be careful that we don't just adjust and cope and survive with our new parameters and look for, hey, McDonald's may open in 2-3 weeks time. Yeah. That's my goal.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I can't wait for McDonald's to open, and they better do Monopoly. Otherwise, I'll be fuming. They better double the prize money or whatever.
Yeah. I found the prison thing is interesting as well, though, because it's caused me to reflect a fair bit on Paul, under house arrest, and yet the overflow of joy and gratitude and hope, but also the way he engaged with the churches. I've found myself trying to write letters and trying to actually encourage and find creative ways to be the church, to be the community, to be the people of God in this time. There's been a really special element to that. Obviously there are challenges, but there's still ways that we can creatively, like, can I write a letter? Can I send flowers? Can I send some of the kids in the church, like a little gift or whatever it might be as a lift? And just really found myself often reflecting on the joy and the hope that Paul held on to under house arrest. It's amazing.
Yeah, and those little things like you mentioned, like a gift or a letter or a phone call, like I think just have quadruple value in this season.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, this week just been blown away. It's God's timing is amazing, and I just want to encourage people to always go with their gut and the promptings of the Holy Spirit, because you just don't know where it will end up.
Yeah.
But we as a family have been on the receiving end of 3 or 4 beautiful moments of kindness and generosity this week.
Wow.
Which, if people knew the backstory, was at the most perfect time.
Wow.
And you think lockdown, no one knows.
Yeah. I agree.
No one knows, but like God knows, God sees. And I've been reading books, and it talks about, the whole idea of like food turning up at the door just at the right time when you prayed.
Yeah.
And church. I was reading about a revival in Brooklyn in New York.
Yeah.
And as pastor, he had a small church ready to quit, and some money landed in his letterbox at just the right when he was about to quit that day.
Wow.
It was just the money he needed to pay like a bill on the church.
Yeah.
And now the church is like 10-20,000 people.
Yeah.
But the key in all that is stirred a move of God in prayer. I don't know about you, Paul, but I think in order to counteract us settling with our new parameters, the most important thing we could do right now is to pray. Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. And I think this time is teaching us to pray, isn't it? It's teaching us that heart prayer, and yeah, it's amazing.
I think it's time to pray some dangerous prayers as well.
Yeah.
Like, just like I've been thinking this week about kind of 3 scriptures which really formulate some of my prayers. And you think, gosh, are these really the prayers you want to be praying in this season? But, one of them is to search me.
Yeah.
Lord, search my heart. I think God's doing a sifting and
Yeah.
really like an x-ray on the life of the church. And that starts with us as leaders.
Yeah.
I think, Lord, break us, break our hearts for what breaks yours, where there's been some hidden stuff, where there's been some stuff that we've just been settling with. God, would you just break us and remold us and refashion us? And then the commissioning of Isaiah 6, Lord, send me.
Yeah.
And out of that place of brokenness and that place of where God's searching your heart, but actually, Lord, send your church out.
Yeah, I have very similar prayers actually, even as a church. I'd say just trying to have almost ask ourselves, what's the dream for the city?
Yeah.
When you trace that back, you go, well, what's the dream for the church? And then you trace that back and you go, well, what's the dream for me? Actually, if we want to see the city change, we've got to see the church change. And if we want to see the church change, we've got to see ourselves changed. And that means me. I've got to become more like Jesus, more hungry, more desperate, and more reliant on him to do it rather than us to, it's in my weakness that we find that place of strength, and we find that he is the one that breaks in and breaks through.
Yeah. I mean, Paul, Joni and I have been privileged to do life with you and Steph, and good friends. And I kind of joke that, there's a difference between real Coke and fake Coke, or a real leather jacket, or faux leather jacket.
Yeah.
And there's like real Christians and there's like not so real Christians. And one thing that Jenny and I always thought about you guys is that you guys are the real deal. You're authentic. You're not trying to be someone you're not. Your desire's always been to follow Christ.
Yeah.
And everything else that's attached to that, leadership, influence, that's all kind of like by the Bible. The most important thing is you sold out for Christ. And for those who are listening tonight, what are some of the kind of a bunch of the main lessons that you've learned in following Christ, like the main and plain? What are some of the things you adhere to in terms of following Christ radically?
Yeah. John, that's very kind of you to say all of that. Let me just say something before I answer your question. I just want to honor you guys. It's an amazing privilege to actually chat with some of your church and just say how for you guys we are, but also how for your church we are. I remember just before we planted, you guys actually gave us almost a mini commissioning. Some of your personal story, you and Joni, and how you've lived and the way you've lived has spoken so much truth into our lives. And you'll be some of the first people we'd phone to seek advice and counsel and do life alongside. I want to honor you with that, but also say to your church, maybe it's not as easy for you guys to say it, but I think these are hard times to lead a church. You know, we've got to pray for you. We've got to support you. We've got to cheer you on. We've got to pray for you for wisdom. I'm glad to hear you'd say, you know, 4 or so things have happened this week where you've just been encouraged. That's so important. But I guess, you know, there's a verse in Acts 20, I think it is, where it says, my life is worth nothing to me unless I finish, unless I use it for finishing the work assigned to me by the Lord, of telling others about the good news and the wonderful grace of God. That verse is almost tattooed on my heart. You know, that's what we're about. We're about Jesus first and foremost, front and center, and the focus is him, not us. And so I think it helps to come to the realization that I'm really just a cracked, broken jar of clay. It's not about me. It's about the all-surpassing glory that shines through us if we're willing to be used by him. And so if I can get my vulnerabilities and my insecurities and, you know, the things that would make it be about me out of the way, he can do an awful lot more. And if we realize our weakness, through that we're in a place of strength, because actually we realize it's about him and we can stand on that and lean on that. So I kind of, you know, the verses around, he uses the simple things to shame the wise and the weak things to shame the strong. It's like, it's just daily coming to the realization, this is not about us. We can't, but he can. And the more we come to that place of dependence, and I guess that's one of the amazing learning things about this crisis, is if we use this as a tool to help us realize that really we are so weak. But he is not. You know, I often reflect on Peter and John, where they're just ordinary people who'd spent time with Jesus. That was what had made the difference. People could tell they were ordinary people, no special training in the scriptures, but they'd spent time with Jesus. And that, I think that changes us. So we lead from our daily walk. Like you can't, it's an old Wimmer phrase, I think, isn't it? But you can't serve what you're not cooking. You've got to have the thing going on yourself to be able to give it away from others. So our marriage is vital. Our relationship with Jesus, the way we live faith out with our children is vital. Is there a desperate longing and hunger in us? Do I read my Bible? Am I being changed? Am I being accountable to people? Have I got people speaking into my life? I love that. You know, when Jesus says, my nourishment comes from doing the will of the Father. These have been exhausting times. You know, I'd say we're busy at the moment, but actually my nourishment comes from doing the will of the Father. We can be nourished by doing. I don't just have to not do to be nourished. I can actually step out and have an active life and an active faith, and in that find a place of fulfillment and furtherance and just constant encouragement. So I would say to people, serve, you know, serve, find the need, meet the need, love people, but prioritizing a disciplined, passionate relationship with Jesus, probably first and foremost, over above anything or anyone.
So all the ministry and all the doing comes to always out of a place of being.
Yeah, 100%.
And life always responds to who you are, not what you do.
Yeah.
And so it's not about title and turf and position and all these things and getting our confidence and identity from these things, but it's essentially just from being a place of being intimate with Christ, living for Christ, for the audience of one, and where God takes you, he takes you.
Yeah, 100%. And I'd say my eyes have seen Jesus. You know, I long to see more of him, but the part I see and the part I know, I want to do something with that, and I want to live that out. And I think that's all it's really about. I think sometimes it's funny you mentioned title and turf. So easily we can fall into those traps. Any of us, the insecurities or the comparison or whatever it might be. Ultimately, it's about an intimacy with Jesus and allowing that to be the influence. I don't want people to ever see me or know me. I want people to see him and know him.
Yeah.
You know, is that, I'm trying to think where it is off the top of my head, but you know, where was it Paul who said, I've decided that while I was with you, I'd forget everything except Jesus Christ and the one who was crucified.
Yeah.
That's the priority.
Church in Corinth, yeah.
forget everything else. We just want people to know Jesus? Don't we just want people to know and understand more of him?
Yeah, I mean, this Wednesday night on Zoom, Jenny and I were training a bunch of emerging leaders. It's about 25 of us on the Zoom call. It's just fantastic.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff we were talking about. Leadership primarily is an example, and it's influence, but it's pointing people always to Christ.
Yeah.
We're here to influence, and that's why whole life discipleship is so important. That's why what we do with in our families, with our kids, in our relationships with our spouses, with our money, our speech, everything, whole life discipleship, not compartmentalized, but the whole thing, because am I using that to point people to Christ? Will people see Christ and his goodness and who he is and his character through us, church? And that's why I always think the call to Christ likeness and the call to character for any disciple and for any leader is the top priority.
Yeah, and I think I've said it till I'm blue in the face to our church, but the most important thing you can do is be a more Holy Spirit filled you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the best thing I will offer our church is I love Jesus and I will do anything for him out of obedience to the call on my life. Like that's before anything else. And it's so important. It's one of the most, I would say personally, what is the people I want to be around are the people who are passionate about Jesus. It inspires me, it encourages me, it challenges me, it furthers me in my faith. And I seek those people out. But what is the one thing we've got to be is that to others, but first and foremost is that for ourselves. We just want to be around Jesus. We want to chase after him. We want to catch the dust off his feet as he walks before you.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think for both of us, we would say, Paul, there's no way we'd be church pastors unless we felt called.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
I mean, like, Tesco.
Yeah. Waitrose, I'd go. Yeah. Well, I'd say, you asked that question about church planting. I'd say don't seek it out in that sense. Let it seek you out. Let the Lord,
100%, yeah.
Let the Lord affirm it. The last thing you want to be doing is the thing that he's not called you to. But follow what he has said and what you believe he has told you with everything within you.
Yeah, and one of the reasons for that is that when it gets tough, which it will inevitably, very, very tough, very, very painful, is that you're going to be feeling the pressure to quit.
Yeah.
Everything within you is going to want to quit, and you've got to know the call of God in your life to withstand that.
Yeah, and if you build it, you've got to maintain it. But if he builds it, it's really on him. Unless the Lord builds the house, the labourer labours in vain. And
I love that.
When you know it's him, that's okay. And I know there's things where we still have to take regular risks. I'm like, we've just done this £100,000 challenge. What if we don't get it? Am I going to look stupid? Well, that doesn't matter because I just believe I'm acting in obedience. With this thing with the building, what if it's, well, I'm just acting in obedience all the time. You're just trying to do his bidding and doing the thing that you believe he's called you to do. You're in a safe place, even though at times it feels like you're jumping off the diving board and the water isn't at the bottom, because that's the place of faith. We want to keep ourselves in the place of faith, which is often an uncomfortable place because you're longing for the God story, but the God story is only really going to come if you step into believing for it and seeking for it. See what I mean? Does that make sense?
100%. Yeah, so good, Paul. Well, Paul, it's 10-7, so we need to land the plane.
Yes, Boris.
Let's finish off. If you could just speak to the whole Vineyard crew.
Yeah.
To us as a family, what do you? I mean, you've been to our church, you know us. Kind of what's your encouragement to us as a church?
Yeah, you guys you're a blessing. Your fingerprints spread wider than the city as a whole. I'd say you guys have been an incredible blessing to to the movement, but not just the movement, to churches. Like the blessing you are to the wider body of Christ in Hull is remarkable. But I would say, I think my heart is always seeking out the one, where there'll be people who are spectators of what you're doing rather than participants. And I think that's a hard place to be. I think our job is constantly inviting people off the stands and onto the field of play. And
Yeah, for sure.
don't watch what is happening around you. Come and be part of it. Come and have a rooted heart in the local church and in local relationships, because that's the place that's going to change your life, and that's the place that's going to change your city. And that would be my story. It's so easy to sit on the sidelines, and the painful place that can be is you can end up actually criticizing, and you can end up feeling out on a limb. But actually, you're invited to be part of that. And I'd say that the vineyard is a phenomenal thing where we believe in people. We invite people. It's not about position and title, but it's realizing the freedom you have to get involved and come and be part of it. And what I see of you guys and your potential and your hearts for the city and your focus on the poor and the strong mantle of leadership that is on you, is you're uniquely placed to do that. But I guess you need everybody in their place, and everybody part of the army, and everybody part of the family and part of the body, for that dream to come to fruition. And so, if people are feeling on the fringe of it, this is a really good time. You get a moment like this, it's almost like a upset to reset. Have a reset moment. Like let this change you. Let this be the moment where you say, I'm never going to be what I was. I want to be all that God has called me to be. And in my weakness, I want to offer all that I have, that he might turn it into a mighty place of strength.
Yeah, and that's awesome, Paul. And I love that word reset. I've heard that a number of times. I think that's one of the things the Lord's doing.
Yeah,
Is he's giving a season an opportunity to press the reset button. And it's that whole axiom, we don't want to be part of the audience, we want to be part of the army.
Yeah.
And even when Jenny and I set our vision at the beginning of the year regarding home, we constantly twin that with a perspective of, guys, we're here to cheer you on and encourage you and equip you and empower you as best as we can to release the vision of God that's within you.
Yeah.
That only they can do what they can do. They're uniquely placed in the city to do what they can do. They have the idiosyncrasies and the personality and the background and the pain and the story and the gifting and the call, and it's all uniquely placed, and it all fits under the wider parameter of the call and the vision of the church. But actually, we want to just release what's in the hearts of people. Just to go for it. We're here for you. Just go for it. Make inroads for the kingdom in the city of Hull and beyond.
Amazing. And it's easy to settle, though, isn't it? It's easy to start to maintain something rather than step into the fullness of the mission and absolutely go for it with everything within you. And I think that's what I love about you guys. You're a pioneering people, and that constantly turns you outwards to focus on those that are not yet part of you, rather than just become the cozy inward thing that would be lovely, but isn't going to win the lost for the gospel.
100%. Well, and that's our prayer, isn't it, Paul? That whatever normal looks like, whatever that is, is that we don't retreat to being back to how it used to be. That actually we take this fire, we take this desperation, and we go and focus our lives on things which are about the kingdom, legacy, generations, whole city change.
Yeah, and hearts and minds are open on a level like never before.
Never before.
The people, it must be true for you guys, because the people we're currently talking to, even on our street, that before would have never been open to the conversation we tried, are now open. And I'd say seize the day, seize the moment. I'm excited for you. We're cheering you on. We're praying for you.
I tell you what sign of the change, Paul, is my 3 local butchers call me Billy Graham.
Brilliant, mate. Hey, they're cheap steak there, mate.
I mean, they give me grief, man. They call me Billy Graham. And that's all come about because they know we've gone online.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. And just for our church family, they've actually one of our local butchers, is donating a ridiculous amount of eggs to us that
Wow.
I've got to go pick up on Wednesday to distribute to. We just started reaching out to families who are struggling 2 primary schools.
Okay.
I think the heads of the schools contacted us, and so it's going to be great to do bags of eggs.
Wow.
And I'll put a little barbecue recipe in there, barbecued omelets.
Nice.
Paul, I'd love to just. Well, we can continue to chat, but we've got to stop here for the Facebook Live.
Yeah.
Give people 5 minutes to go get a cup of tea, a rich tea biscuit, listen to Boris, and whatever he says, know that Jesus is on the throne, right?
Oh, absolutely. His stability and security comes through him. And do you know? I just quickly, I'll say. I've really anchored myself on this. Hebrews 6 says this hope is a strong and trustworthy anchor for our souls.
Yeah.
That I'm anchored in Jesus and Jesus alone. That things can change, things can be turbulent, these can be challenging times, but we're anchored on him and him alone.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Paul, I'm going to love you and leave you. Thank you so much for blessing our church, and I'm sure other people who've jumped on. Love to Steph and the family.
Thank you.
We're rooting for you. We're cheering you on as always. And yeah, we love you guys.
Same. And we're so for you. Bless you. Thanks, man.
God bless, mate. Bye-bye.
Bye.